All right. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Q&A session today. We thought we should have an open session, have a chat about your experiences to date, hear what you're struggling with, hear what you would like to know more about. So we haven't prepared any presentation today. You're with me, Alex Semba. I think most of you may already know me based on the sessions that we have had previously, but it's possible that some of you are new. I have noted that there have been a lot of people that have joined the group, I think today, yesterday, so I'm not sure whether you have been part of the previous sessions or not, but we would like to welcome you to this session. I am joined here with one of our new team members, Sandra, and I actually informed Sandra that I'm not going to introduce her. I will ask her to introduce herself. So, Sandra, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alex. Hello, everyone. My name is Sandra Ngaunje. I am a 2024 DAAD scholar. So I'm currently still in Malawi, but I will be leaving for Germany at the end of the month. I will be studying urban management at TU Berlin in Berlin. Yeah.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Sandra. So as soon as Sandra got wind that we have these information sessions, she was very keen to participate, although she hasn't traveled yet to start her studies. She's going to be traveling by the end of this month and getting started next month with language course, right?
Yes, that's correct.
For how many months?
For 2 months.
For 2 months, yeah. So she is under the EPOS program. So EPOS program, you will note that there are slightly different programs there from the Helmut Schmidt, which is running at the moment, which closes at the end of the month on 31st of July. I think for those that know about that program, you know that they have a slightly different period of language course. It was previously 6 months. And it's now been, I think, compressed to four months. So if you are applying for the Helmut Schmidt, it is going to be a different time that you have to travel to Germany. Right. So before we get started, I would like just to remind everyone to keep their microphones off unless I am muting the ones that I see here, unless you have something to say at a particular time, and we'll give you an opportunity to do so. Like I have said earlier on, that this is an open session, and we would be glad to see you. We would be glad to see your hands up if you have a question, but there is a possibility that you can also write your questions in the chat. But it's just Sandra and myself. So it will be great if we can speak to one another here. But if you feel like you want to write your question in the chat, it's also all right. We will try to check the chats and see if we can respond to your questions. If we are not able to respond to your questions today, be rest assured that we will take those questions with us, come back to the team, because remember, there's a bigger team beyond the 2 of us that are here today. The others are not able to join us because they're still busy with other activities. I think some of them are still attending sessions at the moment, so they are not able to join us. But you may know we have other team members that have been joining us previously. Those that will find the time will join us still before this session ends. So yeah, let's get started. So let's hear your questions, let's hear your comments, let's hear your statements, anything you feel like you would like to discuss today. The floor is open. I think for us to be more organized, you can put up your hand and then we will call your name. you can come on the platform and you can ask your questions. Sandra and myself will try to look into the questions and give you responses offhand at the moment. If not, like I have said, we'll be able to come back to you with the responses. So this session was actually just specifically for us to get, to get to know you and your experiences at the moment with the application process. My apologies that my mic was unmute. Oh, that's Chisomo. I thought that was a question. Right. So we're here for questions, guys. So yeah, let's bring them on. And please be reminded that there is no silly question. Most of the times when we are in a group, we are often thinking, oh, I can't ask my question because I will look like this, or people may perceive me like this. We've noted this with the chat, that most of the people, are choosing to come to the inbox rather than ask the question in the group. And we have always encouraged everyone to, ask the questions in the group, because what happens is when you ask that question and the response is given, many others actually learn from the same question that you have asked. So it's quite important for us to be open and come forth with what we would like to know. If questions are not coming, we will call out names and say, okay, why are you here? No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to put you on the spot.
I think that's a great approach.
Right. Remember, we are recording this this session, so I cannot be the only person being heard all these minutes. People want to hear the questions and the answers. So let's get going.
We have a question.
Yes, please.
I think from Soko.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for this session. For someone who is just starting this, what do I need to know? Like for someone who's just getting to know about the DAAD. No, sorry if I'm taking you back.
Yeah. I'm glad that you're taking us back to the very first session where we talked about the DAAD scholarships. I think without I'm just kidding about taking us back. I mean, that's why we're here anyway, to provide the information. So without really going too much into detail, of course, I'm sure that probably you have gone through the DAAD scholarships, the scholarship website. I am sure you have seen the PowerPoint presentation that we shared that contains the basic information about DAAD. This was a presentation that was done by the DAAD representative from the South African office. We have shared that with you on the group. We have shared that with you on the group to take a look at, and we wanted you to probably ask questions once you have looked at that that presentation. So there is a lot that you would want to know. Firstly, is that DAAD is a big public organization here that actually provides about 100 and something scholarships. I think there are about 186 scholarships that they provide. And so we have not been going through scholarship by scholarship because there are many universities in Germany that are affiliated to the DAAD that are providing these scholarships. And so what we did with the group in the first session was, of course, first and second session was, of course, to provide the website in the first place and ask people to go to that website, search for programs that they are interested in. And of course, when searching for the programs that one is interested in, first of all, you're looking at your own background. Where are you coming from? What have you studied previously, right? What is it that you are interested in studying moving forward? What are your career goals? So all these things would then help you decide which particular program am I interested in to apply for. Most of the programs that they offer scholarships for range from master's level, You have PhD level scholarships. You have generally just research scholarships. Some of them are also just exchange programs. There are some undergraduate scholarships, but mostly those, the people that often would qualify for those they could be people that are living in Germany, but not necessarily that they're Germans. They would often be eligible for that. So what you ought to know is that there are these scholarships. They are fully funded, so they would cover your living expenses in Germany. They would cover your travel to Germany. They would cover what else do they cover? So
Insurance. Health
travel,
insurance.
health insurance, and your living expenses, right? Most universities in Germany do not have tuition fees, right? So DAAD does not necessarily cover tuition fees because most of the universities don't charge tuition fees. But I would want Sandra to just come in a little there about the issue of tuition fees, because there are universities that would charge tuition fees. So although DAAD does not necessarily cover tuition fees, there are some instances where an individual who is a DAAD scholar is exempted from paying the tuition fees. Do you want to come in, Sandra, for a minute?
Yes. So as Alex said, that the
I'm sorry, Sandra. I think I muted you. I was
okay.
trying to mute someone else.
That's okay. So the DAAD does not necessarily cover tuition. So when you're checking for your programs, you have to check whether that institution requires tuition. For instance, in my case, the program that I had applied to, I applied to 3 different programs, and my first choice program did have a tuition fee because it's a private institution. It had a tuition fee. It had about 11,000 euros tuition. And when I was applying for it, I knew this, and the DAAD did come in to say that we don't pay tuition fees. However, after I'd submitted my application, after the first round, when the school had gotten back to me to say that, okay, you've gained admission into the school, now you qualify for the DAAD application, because the first application is your university admissions application, and then they advise you when you can apply for the DAAD through the portal. And then after that, after I'd been granted the scholarship, they came back to me to say that, no, we actually have an agreement with the DAAD, so you're tuition exempt, even though my university actually charges tuition. So when you're applying for the different courses, particularly for the EPOS programs, you have to check if the program that you're applying for requires tuition fees, because you might be required to pay that.
Thanks for sharing that, Sandra. Yeah. So I think I mentioned at the beginning that there are different types of scholarships. And the scholarship that Sandra is on is called the EPOS scholarship. We've also EPOS DAAD scholarship. There's a full name for EPOS, which I don't have now, but I will share the documents here on the screen now, so that you can tell the difference, because there is what is also called the Helmut Schmidt scholarships for DAAD, the ones that opened on the 1st of July, and they are closing on the 31st of June, sorry, and they are closing on the 31st of July. I see a question here that is actually asking about that in terms of when is the deadline for checking the documents. So when you say when is the deadline, Jessica, for checking the documents, it's very difficult for us to say when the deadline is, because we're not sure which one you are applying for. But if you are referring to the Helmut Schmidt DAAD scholarships that are open now, that were open on the 1st of June, that are closing on the 31st of July, it means that by the 31st of July, you should have submitted your application, right? So when is the deadline for checking the documents? I am also not sure whether you are referring to us as the team that is supporting checking your documents before application, that you are now checking when is our deadline. I am not sure. Where are you, Jessica? Please come on, speak up so that we don't have assumptions while you're right here. Jessica Mandula. Okay. Jessica is here, but maybe will be able to unmute herself at some point. I have noted Eddington Jenna, but I thought before we bring you on, we can complete to respond to that question about what does someone need to know. So you've got to know these scholarships, right? You have to know which scholarships you qualify for. So it's a matter of searching the website, the DAAD website, finding the university. How do I make you, Sandra, a co-host so that you can help me with this as well? I will find that in a minute. So it's about finding the program. First of all, you need to know the program that you are interested in. You know, we search that on the website, right? We have shared that information. We can see if we can demonstrate these things today based on the number of questions that we have, right? We can do that, Sandra, right?
We can.
Yeah, so we can see whether we can demonstrate some of these things for you. So know the program you are interested in, find the university, and you apply from the university. There is often going to be a portal that says DAAD applications, right? Because the DAAD applications open slightly earlier than the normal applications. And therefore, you need to know where to apply. You need to look for the DAAD application portal on the university website, right? The universities will have that portal for DAAD applications, and that's where you start your application. There will be some information that you need to insert. First of all, familiarize yourself with what the program is about. Familiarize yourself with the qualification requirements, and check that you qualify for the program before you start with the application. So these are the basic things that you need to know. But of course, you also ought to know whether Germany is the right place you would want to study, right? Because I know at the moment this information about the scholarships is being shared all over. And today I think I was talking to someone who was saying, sent me a voice note to say, I have been making applications for scholarships, but at no point did I ever consider Germany as a place of study for me. You know, I've been, applying in the US, I've been applying in the UK, but I never thought about Germany. So that's one of the things you also need to probably, understand. Europe is the same, but of course, Germany is slightly different. The language is different in other places where you're applying for, perhaps it's all in English. So you also have to be familiar with the fact that there is a different language here, and Germany is slightly different, but it's a wonderful place to be in. I mean, at the moment we are still in Germany and studying here, and so far so good. There are other things that we can, of course, talk about in other different sessions. So those are some basic things that you need to know about. So I hope, Soko, I have tried to, to provide some responses to your question. If you have any additions, Sandra, you're also most welcome to come in. But before you come in, if you have anything at the moment, let me welcome Nelson. Thank you, Nelson, for joining us. We did send an apology at the beginning that some of our members are not yet here because they're attending to other aspects of their lives, and we knew your program was finishing off at 15:30, and we're glad you are here with us. Because you have introduced yourself in the other sessions before, I don't think you need a long introduction, but perhaps your voice might be well received if you say a few words at the moment.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mason. As Alex has introduced me, I'm doing Master of Science in Social Protection at Bonn-Rhein-Sieg here in Germany. Let's do this. This is the time. This could be the opportunity that you have to gladly grab it. Germany is waiting for you, and let's get the chances, guys. So let's do this. Ask your questions. Wherever we can assist, we should be able to do that. And if we can't, we'll try to find the ways on how you could still get the help that you need.
Thank you, Nelson. Thank you, Nelson. Right, Sandra?
I think you covered the first question.
Okay. There's a hand up from Eddington, so we can either take the hand or take the next question that's in the group or some questions. What do you think?
I think before we go to Eddington, the next question is a very brief one.
Okay.
I think it's another question from Soko. What are the application fees range from in dollars or in kwacha? I'm guessing you're asking about the application fees for the scholarship. There should be no application fees. It's free of charge. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So as Sandra has indicated, there are no application fees. There are no application fees. Okay. There was a hand up from someone. Did you check
Eddington? Yeah, we have Eddington, and then after Eddington, we have Natasha.
Okay, but now Eddington has put down his hand. Eddington, do you want to come through?
Yes, I would like to come through. Thank you.
Please.
All right. I've gone through the application documents for both the Helmut Schmidt and the EPOS. But what I've noted is that in both these scholarships, there's an indication that if somebody graduated more than 6 years ago, then they don't qualify. But at the same time, somewhere I read that if you have a backing, say you graduated more than those years that are being mentioned here, but you have a backing as to why you still want to apply, then you can bring in those reasons. Probably maybe just to learn from you if you have experienced such cases before, and how did you help out such candidates? What were the arguments that you think would really give an opportunity for somebody like that to qualify?
Right.
And my other question would be for somebody who already holds a master's, for instance, would that master's help this individual to qualify as a probable candidate?
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much. Thanks, Eddington, for those questions. Anyone that wants to jump in quickly?
Thank you, Eddington. I think to answer your question, the main exceptions that the DAAD has for that 6-year graduation limit is if either you had a child in between that period. So if you have children, I think children under the age of 10, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to check about the specifics, or if you were caring for somebody who had a long-term illness, or if you yourself had a long-term illness during that period. So those are the main exceptions. However, I do suggest that you could always reach out to the DAAD, you make contact and you try to find out, especially when it comes to like program-specific issues, if they can make some exemptions in certain specific cases, because not everything can be covered and there will always be exceptions. So sometimes they don't list the exceptions, but you might still qualify if they see that your reason makes the cut.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandra, for that. Maybe to add to that is to say that it depends on the motivation that you put through, right? Yes, the 6-year mark is actually standard. And from experience, I can tell you that sometimes when you receive too many applications. I'm talking now from the side of the reviewers, you know. And in this, I do not want to discourage you in this with this response at all, but just to share the experiences that sometimes when there are too many applications, the first cut they use is to say already those that have 6 years or that are beyond 6 years of graduation would be the first that would be removed out of it. But like Sandra has mentioned, there are reasons that one can put through that DAAD takes into consideration, and there are circumstances as well. So there are circumstances that you can present within your motivation as to why you are only applying at this time for the scholarship. And depending on the type of scholarship, depending on the number of applicants, depending on other aspects at the review period, you could be considered. So as much as that is one of the criteria, there are several reasons that you could give where DAAD is going to consider. But there are also those instances. There are also those instances where you know, the 6-year mark is like, you know, the starting point to say, oh, these already don't qualify. So it differs. It differs. I would still encourage one to put in an application, even though you know, they might have graduated much earlier. It depends on what you put into your motivation as well, you know. So don't be discouraged. I think try it, and you never know what might be the outcome. Your second question was around whether if you already have a master's, this has an implication on your current application. It differs. It differs. I already had a master's when I was applying for the master's program that I had here, and it did not have any much impact, you know. I wasn't removed because I already had a master's, you know, and I wasn't included because I have experience with a master's. It was just what my motivation at that time and what were the goals of the scholarship at the point, you know. And they considered that, and I was selected for the scholarship in 2021. So I don't know whether Nathan and Sandra, you want to come in there, but this was my experience, and I haven't seen it being a detriment, or perhaps I can just share one more example. I had one inquiry this week about a student that completed at Chancellor College. Chancellor College is Chanko, right? Chanko, and had a mature program. They had done a mature program. Sandra, you would remember that, yeah, right?
Yes.
And the student, if I am not mistaken, had a 2-year had completed 2 years at Chancellor College, but probably they had a previous qualification for them to get into a mature program. I'm not so familiar with the mature program. Anyone who is so familiar can probably share. But now what had happened was they had applied for a master's program here at the university where I am based, fortunately, because I was able to walk into the office of the person that is responsible for registrations, the registrar's office, to find out how the person could be assisted. And they said, unfortunately, we do not consider, based on the regulations in the region here, they do not consider any qualifications that are less than 2 years within the university. But they said if the person had a master's beyond that program, they could have been eligible to enter into this master's program that they were applying for. So I thought I would mention that because you can see that there is an advantage for having that master's because of the background. But in most instances, I have not seen any particular implication of having another master's with you. Any inputs, guys?
Yeah, I could just say something that maybe linking the masters that you have and the 6-year period from your last graduation. So the 6-year period, it's not the time that you graduated from your bachelor's only. It could also be the time that you got your master's. So it could be that your bachelor's, you graduated maybe say 10 years ago, but in between you did your master's. Say you were graduating like 3-4 years ago, you could be eligible for the scholarship to apply since the master's or the last period of your graduation is within the 6-year period. So just a little clarification there to link the two.
Yeah.
But otherwise, what you guys have responded is quite enough.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That was actually my experience because I'm an old soul myself. But at the time of application, my previous master's was actually right at the cut point. I think I was applying in 2021, and my previous master's was actually obtained in 2015. So if I had to look at a bachelor's degree at that time, then I would have been like, oh, since 1961. No, I'm just kidding about that. But what I wanted to say was to just add to Nathan's point to say it's your last academic qualification. It doesn't matter what academic qualification that is. It could even be a PhD. I've seen some people that are already doctors that are even doing a master's program in something else, and they are under DAAD. So it could be any academic qualification. Right, there was a hand up. You're muted, Sandra.
Natasha. We had a question from Natasha.
Yeah, thank you. Most of my question was already answered in response to Eddington's, but just to add on, a little bit of guidance for us who struggle with writing skills with our motivation letters. What specifically are recruiters in Germany looking to hear? Because you always hear that in the UK, they want to read a different version to what China wants to read, to what Germany wants to read as well. So what advice would you give us there?
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that question. Right now, what we have said was that we will be taking time to support and look at your motivations in our third session, or if I'm not mistaken, in our second session, we had a portion where we were talking about how to write your motivation and how to write your motivation letter. So there is a presentation that we have. If you haven't seen it, we will again either pin it or share it on the group as well, because it has some brief information in terms of what you could include in your motivation letter. I know Sandra and Nelson have been handling quite a number of motivations recently, so let me bring forth Sandra just to share a few experiences.
Natasha, I think mainly when we're talking about the motivational letters, you're trying to answer, I like to say you're trying to answer about 5 questions. And these are all in relation to the first question would be why? Why do you want to study this program? So that's the first question that you're trying to answer. The second question would be giving us a bit of your background, and I'd like to break this into like 2 different areas. So your academic background, what have you studied previously, and connect this to what you're going to study now, and then your professional background. So your professional background, we can be looking at your career, whether this is paid work, volunteer work, internships, it doesn't matter. We're going to include all of that under your professional work. And what kind of impact have you done so far in your career, and linking that as well to the program that you're applying for and the scholarship that you're applying for. The next question that you should be looking to answer in your motivational letter is, why do you want to study at this institution and why Germany? So when you're looking at that, you look at the program specifics, the courses, the modules, the faculty, any research aspects. For instance, maybe there's practical experience that's aligned with the program. There's so much that you can talk about. You can talk about how Germany, for instance, if you're studying engineering, you can look at how Germany is the top destination for engineers. You know, we're talking about manufacturing. So those are the things that you really want to like include, and really just to make sure that you're putting together a strong motivational letter. And then finally, the last question that you should be looking at is what comes next. So after you've gotten your degree, what comes next? What do you plan to do with your career? Do you plan to go back home? What kind of impact do you now plan to deliver with the degree that you have gotten? So are we looking at your professional goals? Do you plan to go into advocacy work, research, philanthropy, whatever it is? I think the key with the motivational letter is to try to be as specific as you can. What I've noticed is that a lot of people tend to just be general, like, I want to go into development work. I want to become an engineer. Okay, but you haven't really told us why, and you haven't gone into the specifics of what it is that you're trying to tackle. Another thing is that you should always focus on today. So please be as updated and on current affairs, what's going on around you in terms of like, right now we're in an era of sustainability. So try to always like link whatever you're doing, whatever you want to study with the Sustainable Development Goals. We're still in that era. Try to look at what's happening in current affairs. So what challenges am I trying to solve in my local context, in the global context, you know? So those are the things that you really should be looking at. Those are the things that should be addressed in your motivational letters. I think if Nelson has anything else to add, he can jump in.
Thanks, Sandra. Nelson, anything?
Nothing much, but sometimes we get inspiration from different places. You can just make a quick Google search about like how you can craft a very good motivational letter with specific geographical specification. For example, say like German standard. So you would surely come across different formats and also different samples for a motivational letter. You see how the different samples are putting out their arguments, so you can build your ideas from such as well. It helps. That's what I did myself. So I ended up having one of the finest motivational letters.
Thanks, Nelson. Thanks for sharing that. I think the issue of what problems are we trying to solve is quite crucial. These scholarships are being provided to developing countries so that what DAAD envisions here is that they will support the education of citizens of developing countries, so that once they have completed their studies, they can return to their country of origin and contribute back within their communities, right? There is that aspect. But there is also an aspect that once a citizen can be provided with this support, and they can work elsewhere, either in the UN organizations or wherever, but wherever they are, still be able to contribute towards the country of origin. So the issue of what are the problems within the country that we are coming from that we intend to solve becomes really, really crucial. So when you're writing your motivation letter, you've got to be, like it's been explained, you've got to be also looking at that. I think it has been indicated, but I thought I would just add to that, you know, to look at it from that aspect, because often we want to solve, you know, the different situations that we find ourselves within our developing countries. So I hope that helps in answering your question, Tasha.
Yes, thank you very much for your very helpful responses.
Thanks, Tasha. There was another hand up, or can we go into the chat to look at a few questions? I think there was a question there about when we were talking about the two-year degree for mature entry programs. 3 years, yes, a 3 year is it 3 year? 3 year. I might want you guys to come in, the ones that understand the education system in Malawi.
No, I think some people, for instance, in SA, they have 3-year degree programs. So from first year, they graduate. I think they graduate after the 3rd year. So it's 3 actual years. It's not a 4-year degree program.
Okay.
So I think the question is asking, is that degree enough? I think it should be enough if you have all of the transcripts that are relevant. It should be enough, because I know that with South African degrees, you can apply, even if you don't have the honors, you can apply for the DAAD scholarships. So that should be sufficient.
Yeah, because in South Africa, honors would be 4 years, and of course, bachelor's would be 3 years. It's the same back at home, right?
Back at home, it depends where you have studied. So here it's depending on where you've studied. For instance, Poly will have some degree programs that are 4 years and they're not honors. And then honors programs will be 5 years. Whereas I think Chanko, you can have an honors, I'm not too sure, but you can have an honors degree with 4 years. But the standard in Malawi is 4 years.
Okay. Nelson?
Yeah, I think key to the requirement is the number of credits. Yeah, so I think DAAD is really much strict on that. So it's not just about how many years you have covered in your degree, but also how many credits do you have in that period of time. So maybe the cases would be different based on the program and also the universities. So the better approach to that would be to also get in touch with the coordinators in the universities and find out about the specific cases. But key to their requirement is the number of credits that you have.
And thanks, Nelson, for that. If I may add, I think in terms of the credits, we were dealing with some inquiries recently about where to find credits, right? Do you mind sharing where those credits would be found?
So usually the credits are found with the program specific. I think each and every single university does issue out documentation regarding the program. So each course or each module in the program should be assigned specific credits. And if you have access to that document, usually if they're not giving it out to you at the beginning of the semester, then you can get it from the head of the department. You can just make a request. I think the person that raised the issue did manage to get the document. They reached out to me and said that they managed to get the document. So you can just get in touch with your head of department and ask them for the program. I think it's called program guidelines. I think it has a different name for each and every institution, but it should be a program documentation.
Right. Yeah. So it comes usually with the curriculum, right?
Yes.
Right. There's a question in the chat, I think it was one of the earlier questions. I'm interested in a program at an MBA at University of Leipzig. The institution is not open yet for applications. In between applying for the scholarship and for a place at the institution, which comes first?
I think I had answered that initially when I was talking about, I don't remember what I was talking about, but I had answered it. So he responded and said, thank you for the response. And I think I mentioned, for those that weren't here, I mentioned that you usually start by applying to the institution, and then they get back to you if you have made it through that round to say, okay, the portal's now open, you can apply through the DAAD portal. So that's the normal process. At least for the EPOS scholarships.
Yeah, I was going to say that must be for the EPOS scholarships, because with the Helmut Schmidt, you have the link that I think we shared a document as well that is explaining all the scholarships, and the universities are right there on the document. The links are right there on the document. So for instance, like our university, the Bonn-Rhein-Sieg University of Applied Sciences, you click on that link, it will take you straight to the program. On the program page, there it shows DAAD applications. When you go to that and you apply, what's happening is you are applying to the university. So as a university here, we receive those applications, we sit down. Okay, they sit down. Let me say that. They sit down with the applications, and then they review the applications. Once they have reviewed the applications, they shortlist who has qualified, and then that list is taken and sat with the DAAD. So the university is the one that first reviews and says, these are the people that we think qualify. Then DAAD process also goes through, where they then say, okay, we are happy with this, we're happy with that, we're happy with that, we're happy with that, right? So you have applied at the DAAD portal, but for the university. And once the DAAD takes over now, then you start the process of dealing with the DAAD. And then the university still says, resend the documents that you have sent, because now you need to do, you need to process that with the registrar's office. So it's a back and forth, but it's not so necessary to know what's really happening behind the scenes. You'll be guided as to, you know, where to go from. I think the main point is, where do you apply in terms of the Helmut Schmidt, which is quite straightforward. If you are lost on that, just let us know. We will let you know where to apply, because we have seen that sometimes people are applying at the different places. Instead of applying where there is a DAAD application portal at the university, sometimes they are going straight to where there are main application portals. And there, when you apply there, it means that you are losing the opportunity of being considered for the DAAD application. So that's the difference between EPOS and Helmut Schmidt. So you need to know the right portal to apply at. I'm correct there, Nathan, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Do you want us to take more questions? I see there's another question by Eddington here, another hand by Eddington. But I'm not so certain in terms of how we are doing with the questions in the chat.
I think we have a couple more questions in the chat.
Okay.
But maybe we can take Eddington's question.
All right. Eddington, please come through.
All right. Thank you. I wanted to understand, for the Helmut Schmidt, there are courses that are prescribed that we need to apply for, specific courses.
Yes.
So, for instance, you would like to apply for those ones under the Helmut Schmidt, and then also you're interested in other courses that are offered under the EPOS. When it comes to, firstly, the application itself, as well as the motivations, do we have to do two different applications and the two different motivations? Thank you.
Okay, right. So firstly, what to consider is that the deadlines for applications will be different, right? Right now, we're dealing with Helmut Schmidt, but there could be other EPOS scholarships that are also open at the moment. So if you mean applying for these concurrently, then because there are different types of scholarships, yes, there will be different motivations. But if you are dealing with Helmut Schmidt, but you are applying for different programs under Helmut Schmidt, then you are requested to use the same motivation, but stipulate which programs that you are applying for with the same motivation. I would need
it's similar for the EPOS. So if you're only applying to EPOS programs, then you use the same motivational letter. However, you have to specifically address each program in your motivational letter. So say, for instance, if you're applying for development management and then geography of environment, you have to address why development management, then you also have to address why geography of environment. So each of those should have its own paragraph, for instance, which covers, but you're only going to use the same motivational letter for this, for the entire application.
But now if you are jumping from EPOS to Helmut Schmidt, then these are two different. So you have to apply differently.
I think the only other thing you'd have to note is that you would have to indicate on your form, on the DAAD application form, that you are applying for another scholarship.
Nelson, do you want to come in?
Well, you have tackled the most important parts. Basically, I think these are two different programs. Like one, Helmut Schmidt has got its own programs and institutions as well as EPOS. So if, for example, now you want to apply for Helmut Schmidt, go for it. Apply for the programs that you find interesting. Only as my colleagues have highlighted, if you are applying to two programs within one scholarship program, you have to use one motivational letter. That's at least what I know about Helmut Schmidt. And you can as well apply for the other program, EPOS, even if you have already applied for Helmut Schmidt. It's really possible. So yeah, no restrictions. You can shoot your shots.
Yeah, and the only issue would probably be the timelines in terms of when the deadlines are and what you might be considered for first.
Yeah.
Right. I hope that has answered your question, Eddington.
Yes, it has. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
Right. Okay, can we take some questions from the chat?
Yeah, I think we have another one. Is proof of English, IELTS or the TOEFL mandatory, even though my bachelor's was taught in English?
This is a question we get all the time, and this is a question that we also have responded to many times, and it's always interesting to have it all the time. Anyone who wants to take it?
Yeah, I can take it. Okay, so I think the scholarship documentation is also clear about it. If your bachelor's was in English, a letter from the institution makes like as a proof, works as a proof to indicate that that's a proof you know English. And also case of Malawi, our working language is English. So in that instance, we are exempted from TOEFL or IELTS in this regard. So what you need is a letter from your institution on a letterhead and also stamped. With that, then you can submit and it works as a proof of English. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Nelson. Thank you, Nelson. So I hope that is that's clear. That was a question from Soko, and I think it was responded to in there as well. Yeah. So, like Nelson has indicated, don't stress too much about that. You know, get in touch with your university and write to them about it. If they are strict that they really want the certificate, they will be able to tell you. But in most cases, that letter suffices. None of us from Malawi, especially within the team, has been required to produce the certificate. I think we all have used a letter that has just stipulated that our studies were conducted all in English. Shall we take the next question?
Yes, how can one approach the application process if final semester results are not out, especially regarding certification attachments?
All right, anyone that wants to take that one?
I think Comfort needs to tell us what he's applying for.
Let him come on and ask the question in person. Or input to your question. Comfort?
Yeah, hello.
Yes, Comfort.
Yeah, applying for the global health, the APOS. But I'm a veterinary medicine student at Luana, so my final semester results are not yet out, but I completed everything. Yeah, so I was wondering, in terms of certification, what can I attach as regards to that?
Okay, maybe just follow-up questions. You've checked what are the timelines of application?
Yes, I think it's up until October.
Right, and by October, you will have received your certification?
I'm not quite sure because even we didn't expect to reach this far. We're expecting to have been done with everything by June, but things tend to be delayed for reasons beyond our control. So I'm not so sure.
Okay, is it a matter of the certificate or the results as well? Whether you have a transcript that shows you have completed?
Yeah, so the transcript is incomplete as results for final semester are not there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes.
And you are not sure when the results would be out?
Yes, I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. I was actually looking for there's a place on the website. Go ahead if you have something to contribute while I'm looking for this.
No, I think Comfort, you said you're applying for the EPOS, yes? Do you have the minimum of 2 years work experience? Because you require a minimum of 2 years work experience for the EPOS. So seeing as you have just completed your studies, you would need at least 2 years of professional work experience to accompany your application.
Okay, so I wanted to attempt simply because I've volunteered in a certain organization for more than 3 years. Yeah, so and it was doing things related to One Health. Yeah.
Sandra?
Okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just needed to confirm because for the EPOS scholarships you require, and this is 2 years after graduating, if I'm not mistaken. They do consider volunteer work and internships as well, but it has to be at a time after you studied. So that's what I wanted to check, because you're talking about your transcripts not being out yet. So that might be a little bit of an issue. However, with the transcripts, that will also probably be a problem, because if you don't have your full transcripts by the time that the application is closed, they do require that you have a full documentation that's showing all of your grades throughout the entire 4 years. But if that's not out yet, then it might be a problem as well. I don't know if that answers your question, Comfort.
Yeah, that answers the question. Thank you.
But I would say don't give up. This isn't like me telling you that you need to give up. I would say don't give up. Maybe just wait. You can still shoot your shot with the work experience that you have. Sometimes it does tend to work in your favor. However, some of these rules that they do have are a little bit more strict than others. I also do always encourage people that if it doesn't work out this year, you could always try again next year. The good thing about the EPOS scholarships is that they have different deadlines for the different programs, and they're open throughout the year. It's a bit different from the Helmut Schmidt programs, which have a specific deadline. But for the EPOS programs, they have varying deadlines throughout the year.
All right, that's all clear. Thank you so much.
Right, so you can see here this frequently asked questions on the DAAD page that says, I have not completed my university degree by the application deadline. Am I still eligible to apply for a scholarship? And their response is that yes, in programs which require a first degree, university degree, you can apply in your last year of study. You must then meet all the academic requirements set out in the call for applications by the time your funding period begins. So they will consider you, but it means that you need to have this before the funding period begins. Also, you can hand in your degree letter. It must be submitted before the start of the funding period. All right, let me just share this as well, this frequently asked question, because here you have also, I have not completed my university degree by the application, or I finished my university degree or started my doctoral longer than the application requirements specify, that 6-year period. And I think Sandra spoke to this pregnancy of childbirth, care of children, care of dependents, and so many others. So what I would do is we will also just share this, because there are so many other questions here which you can also, benefit from. Yeah, let's do that. Let's take more questions.
We had a couple of hands up.
Right.
I don't see them anymore.
I saw Robert had a hand up.
Yes, thank you so much. My question is a bit related to the previous one, but maybe in a different way. So my case is that I also did a diploma in a medical field, but then when I was going for a bachelor's degree, I decided to change a career, and then I did economics at Rwanda. So my career trajectory is like I've spent much of my working experience in the medical field, but my degree is in the economic side. So I don't know in terms of experience because I've seen some programs stating that you need to have maybe 2 years experience. So I don't know whether the experience that I accumulated in the medical field could be applied in the for me to be eligible for like a master's in economics, considering that maybe that's one of the conditions that we are supposed to fulfill. So in terms of the scholarships, is it possible to use maybe the experience in a different field, applying for a master's in another field? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Robert. Nelson, is that you trying to come in?
Well, I can attempt. Last time I think we had something similar, where like one with experience in one field and trying to do a master's in a different field. So I always say you can always find a link and a relationship in what you want to do and the experience that you have. For example, you have experience that's like, is it medical related, and you want to do something about economics, if I got you right. So you'd see that you can always find links and relationships. With economics, it's even much more broader. You can specialize in health economics. You can make links to say how your studying of economics would improve certain aspects in the health sector or vice versa. For example, with your experience in the medical health field and you want to study economics, how your study in economics would help improve resource allocation in the other field. So you could always go around and find some links and relationships to link the experience that you have and the field of study that you want to study and the background that you had. So that's what I can say about it. So there should be always a link, as in you can find something that you can get.
Yeah. No, thanks, Nelson. I think I don't necessarily need to add to that. My point was exactly going to be like that you always, find linkages, between the areas. There's something that you can look into there that you will find highly linked to what you're doing now or what you want to study. So if you bring those things together, it doesn't necessarily really matter that the two, sectors might be different. Right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Shall we take more questions?
Yeah, we have another question. I'm interested in a MSc in International Health at the University of Heidelberg. The university website says they will be open mid-July and closing on the 15th of October for EPOS. My question is, do DAAD go as far as October, or am I missing something?
What does going as far as October mean, Tadala? Unless you comparing with the Helmut Schmidt, because with Helmut Schmidt, the application's up until end of July. Or are you looking at the academic years? Where's Tadala? Please release us from this anxiety of what you mean. Is Tadala here?
Okay, she just wrote in the chat box saying she's asking about the scholarship.
Yes, we need to understand the scholarship. When you say, does DAAD go as far as October? We want to understand what that statement means. Do you mean as far as October in terms of the deadline? That is this true? That is the deadline really in October? Or they have made a mistake? Is that what you're referring to? Yes, deadline. Well, deadlines for EPOS are very different from like Helmut Schmidt. Helmut Schmidt, we know each and every year, 1st of June, they open, 31st of July, they close. The EPOS programs are slightly different. They've got different deadlines, opening period and deadlines. So if you see there that it says it opens 15th of July, that means it opens on the 15th of July. If it says it closes on the 15th of October, it means you have August, September, October. So you have 3 months. From 15th of July to 15th of October, you have 3 months to apply. So yes, it goes up until October. And the timing doesn't really matter because it is for study in the following year. It's not for study in this year because the academic years in Europe start from October. That's why it is for the following year. Anyway, everything that we are applying for now is for the following year. Does that answer your question? Oh, yes, it seems.
So our next question, how strict is DAAD application on grades? Some of us graduated with passes.
Right, so it's not only DAAD, all scholarships. All scholarships would consider students that have been academically excelling, right? Those are the ones that they consider first. And remember, we are not only dealing with one country here. Malawi is just one of the countries that is applying. There are numerous other countries that are applying. So they also consider how academically you have been faring, because their goal is that you have to complete your studies in the given time. So they consider your transcript. And that's why they ask for the transcript, because they want to see how you have been performing in school. But perhaps how strict that is a bit, yeah, dependent on who has applied that year, you know? Circumstances would be different. Circumstances would be different. They, of course, may be looking at that, but you might be in a circumstance where the applications for that period are average, and so you would still be able to go through. But at the same time, remember, the motivation is the one that also matters a lot. Why you want to do this program, why they should give you this scholarship, and whether by them giving you this scholarship, it is going to be of benefit to your country. That's one of the biggest reasons they give a scholarship. So, yeah, maybe I'm chasing the tail here. But what I want to say is, just because you have passes, you don't have to feel discouraged to apply. Nelson, you wanted to come in?
Actually, I wanted to say the last message that you just spoken, that DAAD doesn't have like a minimum threshold in terms of how much your degree was, or like say in terms of GPA or something, as is the case with say UK scholarships or other scholarships. But they also consider how much you did. But that doesn't have to be a discouragement that you don't have to apply.
Mm-hmm.
You apply with a good motivation letter, and also showing that you want it and you will be a value for their investment. That's all that matters.
Yep.
So don't be discouraged. Apply still and go for it.
Thanks, Nelson. Sandra, you wanted to come in?
No, I wanted to say we're running short on time, but
Right.
maybe we can take like 2 more questions since we have 1 more question in the chat and somebody's hand was up. I don't remember who, but they've lowered their hand. So the next question, I graduated last year, but I have 0 experience for work. But I wanted to apply for Spring Regional Development Planning and Management. Is it possible to apply even without? Unfortunately for this one, because this is one of the programs in my department, you have to have the mandatory 2 years experience, work experience, and you need them to come with a reference and a work certificate. So without the experience, it's going to be very difficult for you to apply for this because for the EPOS programs, they're very strict about the 2 years mandatory work experience. I'm not too sure about the Helmut Schmidt with regards to how much experience you need, but for the EPOS, it stipulates that you need a minimum of 2 years.
Yeah, with Helmut Schmidt, it depends with the program as well. I think with our program, it's 6 months. I think 6 months.
5 months.
How many?
5 months.
5 months. 5 months.
Yes.
Yeah, and it could be volunteer work. It could be,
Yeah.
you know, work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's slightly different. That's slightly different. But I mean, knowing that means that it's giving you the opportunity now to get into the world of work, to gain that experience before you can put in the application. All right. Let's go to the next question.
I think that's all the questions from our chat.
Okay.
Somebody's hand was up. I'm not sure if they want to come in or because we said it would end at 4:45.
Did we say 4:45?
Yes. Or we can end the session at 5. That would give us 30 minutes.
Yeah. Are there any further questions? No questions. So maybe just to go back to this document. Where is that document now? I had the Helmut Schmidt document open. For those that are applying now, you probably have seen this document, and we have, I think, shared it. We have also pinned it in the group, which explains what the Helmut Schmidt program is of the DAAD, what are the requirements. It explains how much, is the scholarship. It also talks about the actual, these are all requirements here. It also talks about the actual programs. That's where I wanted to go to, the actual programs. So this is the one we were talking about that starts on the 1st of June, closes on the 31st of July. And below here are actually the programs. You have social protection that's offered under the Born Isaac University of Applied Sciences. This is where I am, where Nelson is. You have development and governance, and so you have the universities. So if you click on these, you go straight to the universities and the programs at those universities. So this is really, really like straightforward with in terms of the information that you might need to understand. Let me go to the EPOS one. Where is the EPOS one? We'll finish in a moment, Sandra. I know you're keeping the time for us. EPOS. Okay, and so I think we have also shared this summary of the EPOS scholarships, right? The DAAD scholarships, and if, as you can see, they have different deadlines here for DAAD applications, or if you are self-financed. In some instances, you even have to go to the university website to get the deadlines, like here. You actually have to go to the university website to get the deadlines. So this is slightly different. But with this as well, you can click on the program and it will take you to the university. These are the universities that are here in the first column. So it will also take you to the university and you can start your application there. So I'm hoping that with today's session, we have been able to, briefly provide you with the responses to the questions that you have. But the platform is open for you to share your questions at all times, and we will do our best to respond to those questions. We have mentioned several times that we would want you to share your questions on the platform so that the others can also learn from them. So as much as we can sometimes respond to, or we used to respond to the inboxes, now we have decided that we will remind you to post your question in the group, unless really it is a personal inquiry that we can try to look at. But we want others to learn from what we are asking as well. And that's why today we thought, let's have this session. So thank you so much for taking the time to attend, to ask your questions. We expected, of course, a lot of questions because we have been seeing in the group, some of us mentioning that, oh, I completely don't know where I am at the moment. I don't know where to start from. I don't know. So I'm hoping that with the questions that we asked today, we are able to guide you where you can start from, and you have found some value to get started with something. Our interest, I think we have mentioned this from the beginning, has always been to see a lot of Malawians that are eligible for these scholarships to take up the opportunities. Sometimes it's just a matter of information that people don't know there is this available, there is that available. And we thought, let's bring it on the table and let people know that there is this that they could be eligible for, and they can apply for that. So thanks for your time. I would like as well to thank my colleagues, Sandra, I will not pronounce the surname, and Nelson as well, not pronouncing the surnames, because all the time I pronounce their surnames, they have an issue to bring up. And so I would like to thank them with their first names for their time, their experiences, for sharing their experiences with us. This is quite a noble initiative to be involved in. So I don't take your time and your experiences for granted. So thank you so much for making the time for us to have this session. Perhaps any last words that we would like to have, we can do that in 2 minutes so that we can close at 55. Do you want to go first, Nelson or Sandra?
Well, I can go first. Thanks for the session. Thanks everyone for participating. Everything good starts within. That's what I can say. You have to show that you want something and make the first step, take the initiative. That's all that matters. Every great trip starts with taking one step. This could be the most important step that you may take for your careers. So go for it. Where you have questions, ask. Where we can, we should be able to help. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Nelson.
Yeah, and just to add on, I think guys, don't be shy to reach out, especially via the group. It seems that a lot of you do have a lot of questions. I don't know where the shyness is coming from, or what the issue is, but a lot of you aren't presenting your questions on the group, but it seems like you do have a lot of questions. So don't be shy. I think we've covered a lot of different issues. One thing I just wanted to add on was the experience. I think we've talked about the experience for the Helmut Schmidt. But I really wanted to stress, if you're planning on applying for the EPOS program, for instance, this person that graduated last year, guys, volunteer, even if you're not getting paid, even if it's an unpaid internship, you know, that experience, don't just sit at home. Sometimes we're so hell-bent on thinking, oh, but I need to make money, or I want to work here, I want to make money. But that experience, especially if you're planning on applying for a scholarship, it will take you far. So that's one thing you need to consider. Do your research, look into the programs that you want to study, what are the requirements, and try to gain experience. I know that a lot of organizations do not turn away unpaid volunteers. So just shoot your shot, especially if you know that this is something you want to like apply for in the next coming year. These are not scholarships that are going anywhere. So even if you don't have experience now, on Monday, you can start. You can start gaining that experience. I think that's all I had to say, but thank you for joining our session. I hope to see more questions on the group.
Thank you, Sandra. And just as a reminder, if you have started with an application and you just want to bounce, you know, something with the team, feel free to send an email. Feel free to send a message to Sandra, to Nelson, to myself, or the rest of the team, and we'll be there. We'll find time to support you. So once more, enjoy the coming weekend. For those that love soccer, it's in 4 minutes. Thank you very much. And we will see when we can have another session based on your needs. We can make some other time to do that. Thank you once more. Right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So